There is no mistakes in the Quran. Show me one. Show me one. So it's the perfect book.
All right, so we're doing this again.
Here we go again.
There are many mistakes in the Quran. I recently did a video showing 5 mistakes.
Yes, and I refuted and exposed your video. And the 5 mistakes that you claimed were in the Holy Quran, they weren't even mistakes. They were your lack of knowledge of the Holy Quran, your lack of knowledge of science, and your lack of knowledge of history.
And so in this video, I'll show 5 more.
And I will refute these 5 as well. But before I do that, go watch my previous video. And I've shown that the 5 things that you mentioned, they weren't even contradictions of the Quran. So I'd like a reply to that video. In the meantime, let's refute this one as well. Let's go.
The first one comes in Surah 9, verse 30. You can read the whole thing, but the very first phrase is this. The Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah. Now, if you know anything about Jews, you immediately know the mistake here. Jews have never thought that Ezra is the son of Allah, and there is no evidence to support this. No Jew thinks that Ezra is the son of God. I don't know why the Quran says this. It's clearly a mistake.
Okay, so the first verse he brings forward is what? Is chapter 9, Surah Tawbah, verse number 30. Again, don't generalize. Because even within Jews, there are different sects and different denominations. In fact, within the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him and his family, there was a group of Jews in Yemen, be it a small minority, but they believed that Ezra was the son of God. And this is found in non-Muslim sources as well as Muslim sources. So Vivian Kumero, in her book, which was published in 2005, on volume 2, page 166, quotes Ibn Hazm, an Andalusian scholar, that says that there was a minority in Yemen amongst the Jews that were not monotheists and that believed what? That Ezra was the son of God. And if we were to look at the exegesis, the tafsir and the commentary of this verse, chapter 9, verse 30, what do we find? So we look at Tafsir Burhan fi Tafsir al-Quran by a scholar by the name of Allama Hashim Bahrani. Under chapter 9, verse 30, he narrates a story. Ali, peace be upon him, says that one day, the followers of 5 different religions gathered in the presence of the Messenger of God, peace be upon him and his family. He said they were the Jews, the Christians, the dualists, the materialists, and the polytheists of Arabs. 5 groups. I'm going to ignore the other 4 because there's no relevance. But we'll speak about the Jews. So Ali narrates that the Jews said to the Prophet, these are Jews now, they said to the Prophet, we say that Ezra is the son of God. And we have come to you to see what you say about this. So already here's the proof that a group existed at the time of the Prophet that believed that Ezra was a son of God. So this report shows us that even though they were a minority, there was a sect in Judaism that believed in Ezra as the son of God. So that shows, no, this number 1, the first point, it's not a contradiction or a mistake in the Quran. There was a small minority group within the Jews that believed that Ezra was the son of God.
Our second mistake is in the Quran's version of Joseph's story. It says in Surah 20 that his brother sold him for a few silver coins. You might think, well, what's the problem with that? The problem is that coins wouldn't be invented until over 1,000 years after Joseph's life.
So he quotes the verse and then he relies on the English mistranslation of the verse in order to what? To show a mistake in the Quran. What? He says, look, this verse says that Joseph, peace be upon him, was sold for silver coins, and coins weren't even existent at that time, right? They came centuries later. Bro, the Arabic doesn't even use the word coin. Don't rely on English mistranslation. The Arabic says darahima, which means dirham. It's a currency. It's a weight of currency. So the verse, this incident of you saying coin shows your lack of knowledge of Quranic text. The word used in the verse means dirhams, a currency, not coins, not silver coins. In fact, coins isn't even mentioned. So stop relying on English mistranslation to try and find a mistake in a Quran that was written in Arabic. Absolutely pathetic. Let's go on to the next one.
The third is how the Quran discusses embryology in Surah 23, verse 14. You can read it here. The Quran paints a picture of a human developing in the womb as sequential, that there's this flesh lump happening and then it turns into bones and then the bones are clothed with flesh. That's just incorrect. Bone and muscle tissue actually form concurrently with cartilage forming that eventually hardens into bones. The author of the Quran obviously didn't know this, which is why they made a mistake.
It says chapter 23 verse 14, it says, then we created the drop in a clinging substance, then developed it into an embryonic lump, then developed the lump into bones, then we clothed the bones with flesh. Now I've already refuted this point in a previous video and I proved it, but I'll do a quick recap here to save you going to find that video. So his argument is that the bones and the flesh develop simultaneously, not the bones first and then the flesh after covering it, right? So embryology divides human development into stages. The cartilage models forms first. That's known as the prebones. Then the ossification begins, which is the bone formation. And then the myoblasts, which is where the muscle tissues migrate and wrap around the skeletal structure. Larson's human embryology states that the bone development begins in the limb buds before the muscles cover them. And that is exactly what the Quran says. So again, no, it's not a mistake. Let's move on to the next one.
Number 4 is kind of a funny one. There's this weird story in Surah 18 about Alexander the Great. He's known as dual carne, or the two-horned one.
So I've already refuted this one in the previous video when he tried to say this, but I'll do it again. 98 of chapter 18, where he's saying that Dhul Qarnayn is Alexander the Great, right? No. Nowhere in Islam is Dhul Qarnayn, who was a king, ever made to be Alexander the Great. Right?
But within that story, they paint Alexander the Great as a monotheist. What's the problem? Alexander the Great was a Greek pagan. He believed in all sorts of Greek gods.
Exactly. This point that you just made proves that Dhul Qarnayn was not Alexander the Great. Why? Dhul Qarnayn was pious. He was a monotheist. Alexander was a polytheist. Not the same person. Dhul Qarnayn is shown as a king who ruled over the east and the west, and Alexander died at 32 in Babylon, and he never even reached China or the Atlantic. So his empire was not global, whereas Dhul Qarnayn's empire was global. Now let's move on to his last point.
And the last one, of course, one of the most significant, is that the Quran claims that Jesus was never crucified. This, of course, is just historically inaccurate. As Bart Ehrman, one of the most certain facts of history is that Jesus was crucified. Another atheist scholar, Gerd Ludemann, says this: Jesus' death as a consequence of crucifixion is indisputable.
Okay, so Jesus' crucifixion. So you're going to use other sources to prove the Quran wrong? If the Quran is saying the crucifixion didn't happen, and the Quran is saying it appeared to them as if Jesus was crucified, but he wasn't. You can't then go use some atheist statement to say, look, the Quran's got a mistake in it because some random atheist said Jesus was crucified. We don't believe he was crucified, and we've got evidence and support for that. The Quranic verse you quoted even said it. These people perceived that Jesus was crucified. So don't use an atheist to counter the Quran. So there you go. These 5 mistakes that you claim are in the Quran, none of them are mistakes, and I've just refuted all 5.
I don't know how many mistakes are in the Quran. It's probably hundreds.
Hundreds. Wow. You haven't even been able to show one mistake in the Quran. You claimed that 5 in the previous video, 5 in this video. That makes 10 mistakes, right? I've refuted all 10. Showing you that these mistakes were not even mistakes. They were just your lack of knowledge on history, on science, on an Arabic grammar. So no, there's no mistakes in the Quran. And I expect a reply to both my videos. If not, guys, tag him. Tag him as much as you can in this video so that he sees it and he replies. And we defend the Quran.